Thank you for joining us for another great service at First and LR. I'm honored that you have set aside part of your week to be with us. If you enjoy watching the service, you'll love it even more in person. We would love for you to come and spend a weekend in a service with us and introduce yourself in the guest center. You can learn more about service times and other ways to connect at firstandlr.com. I'm praying that today's message speaks to you, and I'm believing for God to do marvelous things in your life. Thanks for watching.
If you could ask God any question, most of you, your question would start with the word why. Why am I sick? Why is there suffering in the world? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do things keep going wrong? You might ask God, why did you invent the mosquito? What part of your plan included a buzzing, blood-sucking insect? I mean, were there mosquitoes in the Garden of Eden, or did that come after the fall? God, why did you allow man to create pickles? For that matter, why is there a cucumber? If there was no cucumber, there would be no pickle. Why? People say, when I get to heaven, I'm sure going to have a lot of questions for God. I really don't think so. I have a feeling when you get to heaven, you're going to be way too focused on Jesus to be worried about why you got a flat tire on June 4th. All those questions will fade away when you see him face to face. But while you're here, you wonder why. You search to find reason, meaning, or purpose in difficult circumstances, unjust decisions, and unreasonable people. When there are no good answers, it forces a difficult decision. Will you trust God in spite of circumstances, or will you walk away believing God can't be trusted? Today we start our study of one of the most famous men in the Bible. Even if you didn't grow up in church, you've probably heard of Moses. His story has been told in movies like The Ten Commandments and Prince of Egypt. Today, we look at his leadership journey that was marked by miracles and powerful demonstrations of God's presence. But it didn't begin that way. His story started with hardship, tragedy, and overwhelming odds. As a helpless infant, Moses had no ability to shape his future or make a choice. Yet just in time, God stepped in and turned the situation in his favor. It's a remarkable story of divine intervention and purpose. Let me set the scene. There was a new ruler in Egypt, new Pharaoh. The Israelites were captives and slaves, but their numbers were growing dramatically, and the Pharaoh was concerned that they might be strong enough and enough of them to plan an uprising, so he came up with a plan to reduce their number. Pharaoh instructed the midwives who helped Hebrew women give birth to kill every baby boy. If the baby is a girl, let it live. If it's a boy, kill it then and there so the Hebrew people will have no future generations. But the midwives were trained to deliver babies, not kill babies. They ignored the order. They let the baby boys live. Pharaoh grew concerned and had to come up with another step to the plan. So Pharaoh gave this order to all the people. Every boy that's born, you must throw into the Nile, and let every girl live. Since the midwives wouldn't do it, Pharaoh empowered all Egyptians to kill Hebrew boys, telling them, if you see a Hebrew baby boy, throw it in the river. If the baby didn't drown, he would be quickly eaten by crocodiles. Can you imagine the panic? It's the worst imaginable circumstance. I loved my sons. From the time Tyler and Parker were delivered, they became the center of me and Cindy's attention, the most important thing in our lives. Stuff doesn't matter. Houses, cars, clothes, possessions come and go, but our sons matter more than anything in the world. I remember the first time I trusted Joey Pewitz to drive Parker to the restaurant with students. I stood right there and I gave Joey a lecture. I said, look at me. I said, no, I mean in the eyes, look at me. I said, this is my most precious possession. Nothing matters more than my son. I want you to treat him like your most precious possession. And I want you to know, if something happens to him, you're better off dead. As a kid, it's hard to understand why your parents are so protective, why they worry about who you ride with, who you date, where you go, what you do. But when you have a kid, you understand. It's a deep, deep love. Kids are precious. We fight for them and do whatever it takes to keep them safe and protected. Parents have always felt that way. There's nothing as precious as a new baby. The Hebrew moms had to be out of control, frightened. What kind of evil ruler would allow babies to be thrown into a river? We pick up this story in Exodus chapter 2 and verse 1. A man of the house of Levi married a Levite woman. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son. Ordinarily, that'd be good news. In this case, it's bad news. As soon as he was discovered, he would be killed. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in the basket and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. The baby's mother put him in the water along the banks of the Nile River. Remember, that's the same place Pharaoh ordered the people to throw all the baby boys. The Nile River wasn't a safe place for a baby. There were crocodiles and wild animals. This was a desperate attempt to save her child. She made a waterproof basket. She placed her baby in it, wrapped him up, covered him, and sent the baby floating down the river. We read that story. It doesn't really describe the emotion. I remember when Cindy and I left Tyler at Bible college. I pretty much held it together until we left. Then I cried so hard I couldn't see to drive. That was my son I was leaving behind. I wasn't leaving him forever. I'd see him in 4 weeks. Tyler wasn't floating down a crocodile-infested river. He was going to Bible school. This mother put her 3-month-old son in a basket and walked to the river, knelt down, weeping uncontrollably as she took a final look at her son, placed the basket in the water, and gave it a gentle nudge out into the current. Then she left so she wouldn't draw attention to the baby boy. But his sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. We don't know how old his sister was, but you can imagine her emotion as she thought about what would happen to her baby brother. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her slave girl to get it. Pharaoh's daughter just so happened to be walking down to the river at that same time, and then just happened to see the basket among the reeds. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Remember, her father gave orders to kill every Hebrew baby boy. Pharaoh's daughter was supposed to obey her dad, take the baby out of the basket, and throw him in the river. The whole time, the baby's sister was watching. When Pharaoh's daughter found him, big sister ran up and said, "Hey, shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Go," she answered. The girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby." She commanded her, "Take this baby, nurse him for me, and I'll pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. Only God. Mom took her baby to the river, said her final goodbye. Now she's being paid to nurse and raise her own baby boy. God returned the child to her. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter. He became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." Moses moved out of his mother's house and into Pharaoh's palace. Moses didn't have to worry about being killed. Instead, he was loved as the grandson of the Pharaoh. It's an amazing story. Here's my question. Was all that just random? Was that just an amazing series of coincidences? Moses lived, that was lucky. Pharaoh's daughter found him, another lucky break. She decided not to kill him, more luck. Moses' mom got paid to care for her own son. Then Moses, who would one day be the deliverer of the Hebrew people, moved to the house of the Lord. That could happen to anyone, right? Of course not. From the time he was an infant, you can see God's hand at work in Moses' life. Now, I want to pull out of that story and consider the lessons. The world's plan for Moses was that he would die. But God had another plan for Moses from the day he was born. Your life is not a random series of events. God has a plan for you. Proverbs 16:9 says, in his heart, a man plans his course, but the Lord determines his steps. It's not your circumstances that prove God has a plan. It's what God does in spite of your circumstances that prove his plan. It's easy to forget God has a plan when people are against you and everything seems to be going wrong. But God's plan for you is bigger and better. You may feel useless and without purpose. You're not. God has a specific plan and purpose for you. You are created and designed for a reason. Lesson 2. God protects you. God caused Pharaoh's daughter to love that little baby. Moses wasn't alone floating in the Nile. God was right there watching over him. God is your protector. You aren't alone, just kind of floating through life. God knows exactly where you are and precisely what you need. God, the creator of the universe, your loving Heavenly Father, is watching over you. Don't take his protection for granted. God's protection is not just so you can have a good life and tell some cool stories. God is protecting you so you can accomplish his plan and his purpose. Lesson 3, God positions you. This is a remarkable story of God using adverse circumstances to perfectly position Moses to accomplish his plan. Think about it. Pharaoh's daughter brought into the palace the boy who was destined to be the deliverer of the Hebrew people. In Pharaoh's palace, Moses was cared for and educated and trained to be a leader. God put Moses exactly where he wanted him. Moses was raised as a grandchild of the Pharaoh. Moses, who was supposed to be killed at the order of the Pharaoh, instead ate French toast with him for breakfast every morning at the palace table. Well, France hadn't been there yet, so it probably wasn't French toast, maybe, I don't know, Egyptian toast, whatever. God positioned Moses for leadership and for influence. The same way God positioned Moses, God is positioning you. God is putting you in a place to learn what you need in order to accomplish his plan. I don't understand why to move to Arkansas. God is positioning you. This wasn't the college I thought I was going to attend. He's positioning you. I don't know how I ended up at this church. I do. God is positioning you. I don't understand why I'm stuck at this job. Why is this happening to me? I don't understand. God is positioning you. Often the process of God positioning you to accomplish his plan looks like a series of setbacks. You have a picture-perfect image of how life is going to go, like a Hallmark movie. You will face a little trouble. You will find the right person to marry. You'll buy a dog. The dog will get lost. The dog will come home. Everyone will be happy. You'll have a family, and you'll just be happy ever after. When that picture-perfect image doesn't happen the way you expect, you say, God, why? Be open to the possibility God is putting you in a place where you'll learn and experience what you need in order to fulfill his purpose for your life. God not only positions you, he positions the right people around you. God put the right person in the right spot on that riverbank. The only person who could convince Pharaoh not to kill the baby was his daughter. And that's who God caused to find Moses. The fourth lesson, God provides for you. In a time of captivity and hardship for the Israelites, God put Moses at the table of the Pharaoh. Instead of slavery and harsh conditions, Moses grew strong and healthy. But God didn't put Moses in the palace just to be comfortable. God provided for Moses because he had a plan for Moses to one day lead his people out of captivity into freedom. So many times we take God's provision for granted. We relax, we enjoy the blessings. We want to live the good life. Look how God has blessed me. Look how God is providing for me. This is wonderful. I'm so blessed. But do you know why God is providing for you? You are blessed because God has a plan and purpose for your life. Those blessings are given not so you can brag or boast, but so you can accomplish his purpose. God is giving you what is necessary for his plan to go forward. It's not about you. It's about him and his plan. When things are going well and everything makes sense, believing and trusting is simple. When things don't go your way and you don't see how it could possibly fit in God's plan, you begin to wonder, God, why? Why did this have to happen? Where are you in this? And then inevitably somebody quotes Romans 8:28. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who've been called according to his purpose. That's a great verse. But in difficult circumstances, your reaction might be, nice verse, but how? How in the world can any good ever come out of this? How could this in any way fit in God's plan? I don't believe God causes every difficulty in your life. We face sickness, disease, death, and disaster because sin was introduced into God's world. None of that was ever part of God's plan. Satan's goal is to destroy you, but God will turn that on Satan and use your pain and hardship to reveal his glory. Even in the worst of your problems, God will ultimately work it for good. I have a gift for you today. The ushers are coming. And the gift is a piece of sea glass. Now, I know you, and you're going to want to rummage through the, go ahead and pass some ushers. You're going to want to rummage through there and find the shape and the color and the size you want. If you do that, we're going to be here till tomorrow. All right? So just pick one out. If after service you want to trade, talk to Pastor Parker. He'll be in charge of the trading sea glass, and he'll be happy to trade with you. You can trade in the lobby with your friends. You can collect. You can do all that. For now, just get a piece. Sea glass, it's beautiful to see the final product picked up off a beach. But you don't know the hardship that went into making it. This started out as a complete glass jar, whole and useful. It had a purpose. But somewhere along the road, it broke, and somehow it went into the ocean. Over time, the broken glass faced the storms of the sea. It was smacked around by the waves. It was pushed into the sand. It took years of challenge and difficulty for the sea glass to form. But in the end, after all the hardship and brokenness, it turned into something beautiful that people collect. You may feel broken and beaten down by wave after wave of difficulty and challenge. You may have been facing it for a long time, but you can have confidence. God will turn what the enemy meant for destruction to instead reveal God's glory. One day you'll be able to look and see the beauty God brought out of your hardship. I want you to put this sea glass somewhere where you can see it. And every time you do, remember, God uses the difficult circumstances in my life for his glory. The issue is trust. I can't tell you what's going to happen 10 years from now. I can tell you without any doubt, your loving Heavenly Father has a plan for you. God protects, positions, and provides for you the same way he did Moses. The story of Moses is really unbelievable. If it wasn't in the Bible, we'd say it had to be fiction, but it happened. God arranged circumstances to put Moses exactly where he wanted him. In the same way, God will use unbelievable circumstances to see his plan for your life move forward. I love it when people start a conversation this way. Pastor Rod, you won't believe what happened to me. I not only believe it, I expect it. That's the way God works. God uses unbelievable circumstances so you won't think that you somehow accomplished it through your intelligence, your talent, or your ability. Now, if I was God, Moses' story probably would have been a little different. I would have found a big, strong Hebrew man to protect Moses. I can't imagine using Pharaoh, who is trying to kill Moses, to be the guy to protect Moses. In all of Egypt, Pharaoh was the most unlikely person to watch over Moses. If Pharaoh had known he was raising the deliverer of the Hebrew people, there is no way he would have let him live. That's how God works. God uses unbelievable circumstances and unlikely people. God will bring the most unlikely people into your life to protect, position, and provide for you according to his plan and his purpose. You can trust him. If God did all that for Moses, he can and will do the same for you. God has a wonderful plan. So, why did it happen to you? Why is it happening to you? Why are you in this situation? Why do things seem to be going wrong? I can't answer why, but I want to remind you, the same God that caused the currents of the Nile to deliver Moses to Pharaoh's daughter, caused her to love him and then give him back to his mother to raise, that same God who put the future deliverer of his people in Pharaoh's palace, that's the God who is protecting, providing, and positioning you. You can trust him. You can trust him.
All things work for our good. Though sometimes we don't see how they could. Struggles that break our hearts in two. Sometimes blind us to the truth. Our Father knows what's best for us. His ways are not our own. So when your pathway grows dim and you just can't see him, remember you're never alone. God is too wise to be mistaken, and God is too good to be unkind. So when you don't understand, when you don't see his plan, when you can't trace his hand, trust his heart. He sees the master plan. He holds the future in his hands. So don't live as those who have no hope. All our hope is found in him. to someday be just like him. God is too wise to be mistaken. God is too good to be unkind. So when you don't understand, when you don't see his plan, when you can't trace his hand, trust his heart. He alone is faithful and true. He alone knows what is best for you. God is too wise to be mistaken. God is too good to be unkind. So when you don't understand, when you don't see his plan, when you can't trace his hand, trust his heart. When you don't understand, when you don't see his plan, when you can't trace his hand, trust his heart. Trust his heart.
Even if you can't see or understand why, you can be confident God has a plan. Instead of obsessing on the why, know that God will use it for his glory. What the enemy intends for evil, God will use for good. You're not in this place by accident. He's protecting you. He's positioning you. He's providing for you.
What an incredible service. Thank you for joining us and being a part of our church family. If you have any questions about today's service, if you need prayer, or if you just want to learn more about First NLR, go to firstnlr.com or follow us on social media at First NLR. Our goal is for you to be a lifelong follower of Jesus. And I pray that the Lord would bless and guide you as you obediently follow what he has for you and your family. We look forward to connecting with you.